Well, good Thursday morning to you. This is Mark Pierce of Church Requel, and it is such a, well, I don't want to call it a beautiful day, but it is a warm day today, and I just thought, well, this would be the perfect day to get outside and share the Bible study with you before it gets too cold. So we'll see how we do with the wind and with the sound and all the stuff that goes on. We'll don't know if this will keep working or not, but it'll sure be entertaining to watch. We want to be continuing our Matthew Bible study, and we are at this place where we're finishing chapter 4, getting ready to go into chapter 5, 6, and 7, and actually 8 and 9 afterwards. I mean, I know it sounds like, well, you're just naming off chapters, but the reality is that I think that the verses that we're looking at in chapter 4, verse 23 through 25, really set up both the Sermon on the Mount that is coming and then the works that Jesus does afterwards in chapters 8 and 9. So let's take a look at these verses again, shall we? And we'll take a little bit more time going through some of the individual words. Matthew 4, verse 23 reads this way, "And he went throughout all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every affliction among the people. So his fame spread throughout all Syria, and they brought him all the sick, those afflicted with various diseases and pains, those oppressed by demons, epileptics and paralytics, and he healed them. And great crowds followed him from Galilee and the Decapolis, and from Jerusalem and Judea, and from beyond the Jordan." Now, yesterday morning when we spoke, we talked about the fact that Jesus' pattern here was to be teaching in the synagogues and then proclaiming or heralding the good news as he went throughout Galilee. And we have this pattern going back and forth between teaching and preaching. But we also see, and very clearly Matthew lays out for us, that there was a healing ministry that Jesus had as well. And it's important that we get to the root of some of these words so that we can understand exactly what Matthew's trying to get across. He tells us here, first of all, in verse 23, that he healed every disease and every affliction among the people. Now, you know, right there, we should look at that word "every." I mean, this is the word that Matthew's trying to get across to us, and he emphasizes it by the descriptions of the illnesses and the diseases that follow. But the idea is it didn't matter what people had. They would bring it, they would bring whatever their problem was physically to Jesus, and he would heal them. This word for they brought him all of with every healing every disease. This is really the more serious of the two words. This would mean something that is chronic, something that is very serious, something that oftentimes there's just no hope for. The other word that would be that they brought him every affliction would be more translated like every softness or every type of sickness that would be out there. In other words, it didn't matter whether somebody was on their deathbed or whether somebody had the flu. At all extremes, they would bring them to Jesus, and then Jesus would heal them. He made no exception to that. We see here in verse 24, just to kind of, again, re-emphasize this, Matthew gives us a description. It says here that they brought him all of the sick. Again, this is a word that we saw up in verse 23, the same idea. Every type of serious illness they would bring him. But then they go on and describe it here. They brought him people with every kind of pain. Now, you know, if you've ever been in a case of real pain, boy, you just know how serious this is. There's some times where the only thing you can do is just, hey, knock me out so that I don't have this pain any longer. Probably the worst pain I ever had was when I was down in my back about 5 or 6 or I guess now 7 years ago. There was one day when I was just literally laying on the floor growling with pain. And the idea here is it didn't matter what kind of pain you had. If you brought it to Jesus, he healed you. It goes on to say that not only various diseases and various pains, but those oppressed by demons. Now, again, the idea here is that these would be people that would just be out of control of themselves, and that something else, and they very much believed then that that something else was the demons that would be possessing them. And we see several examples as we go through the Gospels of Jesus casting out demons. Then we see the word, what we have in our English word, epilepsy. And this is literally, if we were to translate it directly, would be moonstruck. It's the same word as moon. The idea that they would just be, again, physically out of control with themselves. Again, this is a very biased word, and I don't mean in any way to offend anyone, but the word moon here is kind of the same word that we would use for lunatic. It would be the idea that there would be someone who would be so out of control of their central nervous system that they just were moonstruck. They were a lunatic. And yet they brought them to Jesus, and he healed them. And then we get the idea even of those who were paralytics, those who had literally lost control of their limbs, their legs or their arms. The idea is it just didn't matter what the problem was. You could bring it to Jesus, and Jesus could heal you. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow, and we'll see how well this works out with the outside webcam. It's great to talk with you, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.